So in this video, I'll be showing you how to make things scroll horizontally or vertically, depending on how your use case. Basically, you could use it for things like image sliders, carousel, stuff like that, and just you can choose anything that you want to do with it. So the idea is to be able to scroll within a limited space that you might be given. So for example, carousel, you might need to scroll within just a very small space, giving the user the ability to go to other pages or go to other spaces, or be able to view other places from the same place. So let's just start out by putting in a repeating group here. I have a bunch of images that I'll use for this case. So I'll do a kind of text and I'll make an arbitrary text. And then I'll paste in this bunch of images. These are just bunch of links that I have gathered and separated them with a pipe. Yeah. So we split it by a pipe like that, and then we close this off, and then we pull in an image into it like so. So make sure that the image is inside of the repeating group so that you can take it up like that. And so what we want is to pull down each of these cells text, which actually is a URL. So if you check out the text I pasted inside of here, you notice that everything here is a URL separated by a pipe. So now that we have this, if we preview, we should have images. So by the way, I was testing this out before now. So we should have a bunch of images. So, but I think we have a problem here. So let's check what the issue might be. So we have just one image showing. So it's important that we trim this text. So this text, let's trim it. So I think it probably have some spaces. So let's do a refresh. So we now have our images stacked upon each other, but it's also limited. So let's make sure that we get rid of the set fixed number of rows so that we can have as many rows as possible on here. So yeah, we should have plenty of them like that. So the first one I want to look at is vertical scrolling. So how do you do vertical scrolling? So of course this is vertical scrolling, but how about when you want to scroll within a limited space? So what you can do is here in the repeating group, of course we want, let it be more than one, so let's pick maybe up to 3. Now this can be just one in your use case, but let's pick that we want multiple columns, so that we'll have multiple columns on the same row. And then we now want to set the height. Now the height we must set must be the same height with the content that we want here. So in our use case, we are setting an image here, so whatever image height we've set here should be the same image, should be the same height of the repeating group, so that all we can see is one image at a time. So since our image is 240 height, so let's make sure that our height here should be 240, and then come in the layouts part, and then for here we want to make it fixed height and also make it 240. So this makes sure that all we are seeing is one thing at a time. So now that we have this set up, we can also set up the width. So here we have the width of 320. We can still use the same width here in the repeating group. Okay, you don't really need that in the repeating group, especially since we are doing more than one. So what we can just do is check this off so that it takes up the whole width, and I think that should be fine. So let's go back and do a refresh and see what we have. So it's done. And so now when you scroll, you have all these items only happening in just one phase. So you see how we're able to scroll between, and everything looks really nice. So if you choose to do one item at a time, it's still fine. So for one item at a time, you just need to make this one, right? And if you choose to, you can center align what you're doing, maybe putting this in the middle or stuff like that. Making sure everything is in the middle like that. All right, and so do a refresh, and so we have one item at a time now. So one item at a time, one item at a time, one item at a time. So this is how you do vertical scrolling. You can use this, like I said, for image sliders. So how about horizontal scrolling? How do you scroll horizontally using the repeating group? So for this, now before we move to the horizontal scroll, I do want to mention something about responsiveness. So let's return this back to 3 and make sure that we now have 3 images on our screen. Great, so this is working as we want. Now a problem with what we've done so far is in responsiveness. So you see, as we move to smaller screens, they just overlap on each other, and this might not be the reaction or the way we want this to behave, right? So what we can do to make sure that this does not happen like this, we can come here and we can uncheck fixed number of rows. Now, if you do fixed number of rows here now, you now have vertical, so you can choose to scroll either vertical or horizontally, which will come to in a minute. Then you now have the mean width of the column to be 100. So it is better to use at this point, except for use case it works, it's better to use pixels instead of percentage. Once again, it is better to use pixels instead of percentage at this point. So why I was saying so, if you do a percentage, you to take up the full width, and let's see, so it takes up the full width, that is one item at a time. You see, now if you want to say you want to have multiple items here, and you do say a 50%, then even when it scrolls to a very small screen, it will always have half of it, so you still run into the same problem. So for this reason, it is best to do a pixel and then set a width that you are sure will look nice in multiple screens. So as the screens adjust, it will still have adequate number of images on it. So for example, we could do say 400 here, 400 pixel. So let's see how it looks. So 400 pixel at this point looks have one. So at this point it has one, at this point it has two, at this point it has three. As you keep scrolling, depending on how wide your screen is, you should be able to have more on the screen, as you can see. So this looks great, and this is why it's recommended that you use pixels instead of percentage at this stage. So now let's look at the horizontal. So we've done most of the work that is needed here, and what you really need to do at this point is to switch from the vertical here to the horizontal. So once you switch from the vertical to the horizontal, you should now have just a one-liner. So let's go back and do a refresh. So now that we've done a refresh, you notice that everything is now on one line, and you don't have to scroll up and down. And that's how you really get to do a vertical scroll. So other things you can choose to be checking out is maybe this, like showing all items at a time. This might be nice when you are dynamically getting data. Then wrapping horizontally, when you wrap things horizontally, that's a bit different because everything will have to show on the same page. So let's do a refresh now. I notice that everything now turns to more like a vertical scroll. You get, so when you want to do a horizontal scroll, you need to put it this way. And then this is for separators. So if you choose to maybe put things between your content or images, so you could just play around with it. Let's do a refresh, and we should have something standing between, so like a ridge, like a groove, just stuff like that. So this is it. This is how you do your vertical and horizontal scroll. So thank you very much for watching this one. I'll see you in the next one.